John Waters.
Finally, some faith in humanity.
Please stabilize us. So he says that besides this, he's never really been a big ghost guy, even when he was a kid and everything. But then when he was 10 to 12 years old, he can't really place it. Something happened that he's never been able to explain, and that kind of like gave him some faith in these sorts of things. So he said that he was at a camp called Happy Hollow, which is an awesome camp name, I think. And he had this counselor, and he was in like the older group. I think he said that it was from like 6-year-olds to 12-year-olds, this like part of the camp. And so he was obviously on the older end. And the older kid's counselor's name was Robin. And he said that he really, really looked up to Robin. He just thought that he was like the coolest guy. And he's always kind of just like chasing after him and just like wanting to impress him and hear about what Robin thinks is cool. And he said it wasn't like a crush. He just thought he was just like the coolest.
The coolest.
And so for the campers who stay overnight, because there was a day camp as well, but there were kids who stayed there, and he was one of them. They had this yearly hike and stay over in the woods where all of the campers went, all of the overnighters. So all these kids from ages 6 to 12. And so they like got themselves all geared up. They had their overnight packs, their canteens, their flashlights, and they're going off into the woods by the camp. And they had been in the woods before to do things here and there, but when you go on these overnight trips, you're going really deep into the woods. So it always feels a little bit different and like a little bit scary, but it's always exciting and fun. Like you're noticing yourself getting further and further away from where you're used to sleeping, and like you're more and more isolated with this group of people, and it's a little bit like ooky spooky. So they finally get to this clearing where clearly the camp counselors like set everything up. There's an area to build a fire in the middle, and they start to get settled in. They like unpack their stuff. They set up tents, and they build a fire like they had been taught to, because they're learning like, you know, camp nature kid stuff, and start roasting hot dogs and marshmallows, the whole deal. Like cool summer camp stuff that you think of. And as the night goes on, as the fire goes down, Robin and the other counselors start to tell ghost stories.
Hell yeah.
And they talk about the lost soul of Billy Whitehead, a camper who got lost and died on one of these yearly hikes. And they say that, and this was like forever ago or whatever, and that the camp at the time covered it up by saying that he got lost while he was out looking for crayfish, which is something that they do. So it's sort of plausible.
This is some will-o'-the-wisp stuff.
Yeah,
Don't go out looking for crayfish by yourself. You may not come back.
Right. Yeah, that's totally true. So apparently his spirit yells out to the other kids who go on this hike and overnight every year to let them know that he's still there. So John, like, he said he just wasn't really buying it. Like, he didn't believe in ghost stuff when he was a kid. And he was just like, this is cool, it's fun, but it's like whatever. And he wasn't scared.
Made up.
Yeah, he was not scared by it at all. And now it's time for bed. So they get in their sleeping bags, and it's pitch dark. And he said it kind of starts to sink in for him and probably everybody else, like how really far away they are from everything. Like, there's no environmental noise of, like cars and, creaks of the room you're in. It's really just like the sounds of the bugs and stuff. And you realize just how isolated
That
you
is
are.
a hell of a feeling.
Yeah.
You've had that feeling before, right?
I don't know.
Oh, Chrissy.
Sure I have.
Strongly recommend.
When did you?
We've booked, we've done a couple of things where we've been like pretty far away. One, we went to like Iceland, and we slept in a bubble literally like a see-through bubble overnight.
I do want to do that. That has carried over to places here. Now people make Airbnbs that are a bubble. Yeah.
It was hard to fall asleep. For me.
Yeah, I can see that.
But then we also, a couple of years ago, Zoe was born. Yeah. We booked an Airbnb for a couple of nights deliberately just to be in the middle of nowhere.
We're doing that actually. We don't have it booked, but in the fall sometime.
Okay. Yeah. You're going to love it.
We're going to get one of those like kind of cool, trendy, like A-frame cabins.
Yeah. Yes.
Just in the middle of the woods.
You told me about this.
I'm stoked to do it.
It is a really fun feeling that suddenly like, oh my God, I really am like very removed. It can feel a little like, oh my God. And then it just feels a little freeing.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. We're waiting for the foliage.
Sure.
So they're feeling that feeling. Or at least he is. And just like, it's just really quiet, really dark. And he starts to get just like a little creeped out by that. So then one of the young campers, little kids, yelled out for their counselor because maybe they were feeling a little freaked out too and just wanted reassurance that like the grown-ups are here, even though the grown-ups are probably like 16 years old or something.
I'm scared too,
Yeah. and they don't answer. And then another camper calls out, and then another for the various counselors, and nobody is answering. So the kids are all getting scared and wondering where the hell their counselors are. And then they start hearing these strange noises and seeing these lights moving through the woods, almost like somebody is running with a light.
Ugh.
But the noise would be coming from the other direction. So it's not like you can even match up like, oh, this is somebody running through the woods with a light. They're hearing these like really strange, like I think you said devilish sounds, just like strange, weird sounds, but it's not coming from where the sights are coming from. And so he said that all these kids are just like looking in every direction because there's something happening in like every direction, and it's super scary.
Huh.
Then all of a sudden they hear this thud, like a loud thud on the ground, and a bunch of kids start freaking out and crying. But John Waters is like, I think I know what's going on now. I think that the counselors are messing with us, and I think that they like threw something over to freak us out. And I'm going to go look at it. I'm going to find out. Yeah, I'm going to find out that it's a prank. And he said when he went to investigate it, it was this like thing that was filled with trash from their cookout. And he thinks that I was right. The counselors are just messing with us, and they threw like this thing just to scare us. And he tells the kids that like, the jig is up, it's all fine, and the kids are starting to like throw stuff now in the direction of where they think the counselors are. So then John goes looking in the woods for the counselors to be like, guys, we know what you're doing, whatever. And as he walks into the woods, remember, it's like a super isolated, they've walked far, far away from the campsite now. They're just in the middle of like a forest. This is so weird. And I don't even know how this connects. It seems like the Billy Whitehead story is like disconnected from this. Unless Billy Whitehead aged in the afterlife. Which
Billy Whitehead has the ghost that yells to let you know he's still there. He went looking for crawdads or whatever.
Crayfish. Yeah. It seems like this is just a scary story they told. And it's not, I don't know, if you were making up this story, he would encounter Billy Whitehead now in the woods.
Sure, okay.
I don't think that's what he encounters. I don't know what the hell's going on here. So first he says he sees this like formless white light in the woods that zooms downward. And so he's like, oh, okay, this is not the counselors. What the hell's going on? I've never seen anything like this in my life. And then it morphs into the face of an old man.
Oh.
And they're doing this as a reenactment. And it looks like Jor-El from Superman, just like old man face, like appearing, floating in the woods. And he says it's the strangest thing. The scent of powdered sugar fills the air. And this old man floating face was looking at him not unkindly. And so John Waters just kind of like, just sort of froze and was freaked out, but also at the same time, kind of like curious and kind of not scared because the guy looked so nice and kindly.
It smells like sugar.
Smells like sugar. And because he was raised in a Catholic home, he wondered if this was some sort of guardian angel or something.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So he's just sort of like just frozen and locked there. Then when all of a sudden he sees his cool guy counselor kind of beyond the Jor-El head, who's looking at it, looking terrified. And then the Jor-El old man head suddenly has teeth pop into his mouth one by one.
What?
Filling out his mouth.
What? I don't understand.
I don't either. I don't have anything else to tell you about it.
Did he have just gums and then the teeth appeared? Or it's like he smiled and the teeth just sort of like shone one by one?
The way he said it is that they appeared one by one. I don't know. There wasn't
Boy, it's a conundrum.
Certainly is. I think that the head they showed was just sort of a placid old man smiling with closed mouth, and they didn't show the tooth thing because I was like, what must this mean? They just kind of showed like, I guess they showed like a kid being like, or something.
I have to admit, I don't have much familiarity with John Waters.
I kind of, not really.
I know conceptually.
Yeah.
But like, he's sort of a David Lynchy kind of type.
He's a total weirdo.
Kind of like oddball, but like that sort of
he's
like,
very zany.
Like a mirror to Americana type person.
Yes.
So of course he went to like camp. You know, of course he did like very typical.
If I remember correctly, I read a book that he wrote where he kind of like, if I remember right, I think he traveled around the country talking to different eccentric people. And anyway, I think that he had a very typical Americana upbringing. Like you said, like I think he was raised like Catholic, and went to summer camp and just sort of all of these like picket fencey sorts of things.
Archetypical American boy.
And then sort of like flips them on their head in his movies.
Yes.
Yeah. Like Serial Mom, things like this. Maybe people have seen that.
Of course.
So yeah, no, that's completely right. So anyway, so these teeth are popping in this guy's head somehow, and John sees Robin, his cool guy counselor, looking at this terrified. And now John, the two thing is now freaked John out. He's out of the phase where he's like, oh, maybe this is a kindly guardian angel. Now he is scared. But he said that he had the simultaneous sense that right now he's so scared that he is never going to be scared of anything again.
Oh.
This is the pinnacle. I'm so scared, nothing is ever going to match this, is what he's thinking in his mind, like, at the same time, which I can kind of relate to.
Oh, I totally understand.
So, and then it just sort of disappeared.
Yeah.
The head. So, they went back to the campground.
It's a thinker.
It's a real thinker, I know. And he doesn't really elaborate. It's not like maybe it was this, maybe it was that. He's just telling the story.
This is what happened, this is what I saw.
Who the hell
now you
knows?
deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what it was.
Handle this.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. I mean, he said that they went back to the campground. Everybody kind of just went to sleep. And then they got up and like went about their business, went back to the camp and just sort of kind of, and just like there was nothing left to say. He didn't really talk about it. And he said that his bond with Robin was never the same. It kind of lessened. They weren't tight like they had been. And he wonders if it was because John saw Robin's fear and that made Robin feel like embarrassed and whatever. Yeah, because he was like, he was idolized by this little kid who thinks he's the coolest. Yeah. And now he sees him like, and he was probably kind of embarrassed. And the final thing that I thought was,
he saw me wet my jockeys.
I know. The final thing that I thought was like a really cool perspective on it and like end result of this is that he said it was formative because it helped give him permission to enjoy and explore things that he didn't understand. And that he felt more competent and more included in the world at large because of this.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That's very...
Like, he's seeing this other side.
Yeah.
He was scared of it, but also into it. And that does, like I said, I'm not like a John Waters, like, super fan. I would say the most casual fan ever. I've seen, like, some things. But... like, it kind of makes sense that he, like, finds things that other people might find repellent or whatever. Right. And finds things to love about them.
Yeah, finds the beauty.
Hatchet face and crybaby. Things like this.
Is it weird, though, that, like, he, this all started with, like, yeah, he wasn't afraid of anything anyone was saying to him. He wasn't afraid of anything. Then he saw one thing that scared him so bad, he'll never be scared again. Well, it doesn't sound like he ever was scared.
True, but I guess he was
finally
like,
found
I will
that
go back to being not
him.
scared.
Right, yeah.
Well, I guess he didn't believe it at all, you know?
Yeah.
And then he sees this thing and he believes, but he's so scared that he's like, nothing can match this.
I've never heard of a ghost smelling like powdered sugar.
Me neither.
Sounds like it was like maybe the time to make the donuts guy. You know, like
maybe.
He just whipped up a batch. He's covered in powdered sugar and flour.
Doesn't sound so bad.
And they thought he was a ghost.
Until those teeth get to popping.
Oof. Maybe he was the town's like a baker. Or like the camp cook, chef, whatever.
It could be.
Probably
the
was.
Christopher Maloney of the place.
Exactly. Yeah. I bet he was.
Probably.
Probably. That's bizarre. That's one of the most bizarre ghost stories.
I know. I wasn't disappointed.
Yeah, fantastic. Way to go, John Waters.
Yeah.